Welcome back to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with the boys of Poi and Soy on our post-credits segment. Post-credits is the segment that we go through movies, TV, entertainment, and all the good stuff in between. With me, as always, are my longtime friends and co-hosts, Keona McKee, Jalen Holston. I am Nolan Chang, and say what's up to the crowd.
Soppy Focus.
I was right. That's all I'm going to say. I was right. My prediction came true.
We'll get there.
Fuck you, James Gunn. Okay.
Alrighty.
Starting off the top.
On today's segment of post credits, we are going to go into a spoiler-heavy The Flash movie review.
Apparently, we're not spoiling it for very many people, considering how much money they made.
Not the good one with Grant Gustin. It's the other one with the criminal.
I will also note in kind of a fit of not knowing what to watch, but also making sure I didn't watch something that Nicole wanted to watch. I did start Superman and Lois for you, Jalen.
Thank you, for God's sake.
I am far behind, obviously, but I'll get there. And I absolutely
as quick as you
echo
like.
everything.
Thank you. As quick as you like. What are your vibes so far?
He is learning to be a father, as Jalen says perfectly.
Thank you.
We don't need him to be the end-all, be-all God personified on Earth.
That's boring.
He's learning to be a father. And I think Jonathan and Jordan are giving him a run for his money in the few episodes I've seen thus far. And I'm ready to go kind of dive into it as I kind of move forward into it. So,
are you loving the amount of Smallville fan service that is weaved so beautifully into the show?
I am.
Is it not just the most heartwarming? It's almost like a season 11. It really is. It's as close as I think we're going to get.
And you kind of have to reintroduce yourself to everybody. But, thus far, I don't know what's going to happen further. Lana Lang kind of seems like a bitch. And her husband kind of seems like a douche. And we'll see where we go from there.
All right. Yeah, keep me posted. But anyway.
But today, we are going into the Flash movie review. Just kind of a general talk. We'll go around and say what we thought non-spoilery, give a little bit of a rating for the movie itself. Keone, I will start with you. What were your kind of non-spoiler thoughts on The Flash? And what kind of rating would you give it for now?
I'm going to give it a solid 3.5.
Wow. Okay. Elaborate.
That is out of 10. My general feeling for it was a lot of it for me felt a little incomplete. There was that.
Fair.
So there was a good amount of jumbling where I was like, I wonder when that decision was made. And in general, I mean, from an entertainment perspective, there were parts, but it was very far and few in between. Obviously, there's a lot of fan service stuff that we'll probably we'll definitely get into eventually. But in general, I think the feeling for me was this was kind of a waste of my money, if I'm being truly honest about going to the theater to go see it. I think even Bianca, I would say generally she's one of those it was pretty good, that kind of reaction. But this was a true oh no, that was bad. She didn't like it. And I think that's very telling, just from a casual perspective. And so there were some moments that I definitely enjoyed. But overall, I had a feeling of kind of wish I had just waited to watch that on a streaming service.
That is fair enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jalen, I'm going to throw it over to you. What's your non-spoilery thoughts on The Flash?
Here's the thing. Despite all my qualms and my ongoing bit of hating James Gunn, which is not really a bit, because I do truly despise that human being to the ends of the earth, I still wanted this movie to find some sort of success. It is The Flash. This did take forever to get to theaters. Your opinions on Ezra Miller are your own, okay? I get if you are absolutely not willing to even consider seeing the film, and that is completely within your right. I've been a Flash fan for a very long time. Wally and Barry, even some of his children's iterations of Nora Allen and Bart West, that kind of thing. So I was interested to see what this cinematic representation of this character would finally look like outside of Zack Snyder's Justice League. From day one, I really was not the biggest fan of Ezra Miller in the role before all the crazy stuff.
Man,
This
that's
movie,
why.
he just didn't fit the Barry persona, and what they tried to write him to be is not who he is. He is funny, he is quippy, but he's not Peter Parker. And that's essentially what
Okay,
they tried to
fair.
turn him into. Even in the Snyder Cut version, there's still a lot of those threads in there. And I think Ezra did a good job at the script of what they described and what was written in that time. But it just doesn't work for me. So personally, I would have liked to seen a different take on that version of Barry Allen. He didn't need to be so young and, whatever. But that being said, I went into the Flash film trying to keep an open mind. I was excited to see Michael Keaton. I was excited to see Sasha Kyle play Kara Zor-El, et cetera, et cetera. And she, it's not even a spoiler. She fucking crushed that role. And if anything comes out of this, I'm hoping to every bit of God that she comes back and whatnot. But the movie was a complete mess. Like, this had no direction. And I applaud Muschietti for even delivering something that could be watched, because this is borderline unwatchable on a lot of different levels. Mainly because of where the plot ends up going towards the end of the film. A lot of the decisions regarding the visual effects, which I have quotes about, which make
we'll talk
absolutely
about
no
that.
sense. Yeah, we'll get there. And all of those things in that. There were cool moments, I will say, that you do get to see all of the things in the arsenal of the Flash. This is not a origin story. We got that in BBS and we got that in Justice League. Like, this is fully formed Barry Allen. Like, we do, it's not spoilers because it's in the comics, but like, we do phasing, we do bullet time, we do some interesting stuff with lightning. Like, that is in the comics, whether you like it or not. This kind of your own take, but that is all in there and it's all great. But overall rating, like, it's barely like a 2.5, just because of how much is disjointed in this plot, and because of the direction they went and taking one of the most iconic references in Flashpoint and not utilizing what should have been a majorly epic film to its fullest degree, because they couldn't get the cast that was already pre-existing because of James Gunn. And you could tell that wrinkle was all over this movie, because had it not been, I guarantee we would have gotten a more dramatic and epic version of this film with the proper characters in place. And sorry, this is a spoiler, I'm sorry, but the main one that's missing is Aquaman. And the main thread that's missing is the Atlantean and Amazonian War.
Yep.
That is a huge part of Flashpoint in both the comic run and the animated adaptation. I think the non-Thomas Wayne iteration of Bruce Wayne was fine.
We'll get into that. I'm going to ask you a little later on regarding that, but yeah, continue. Sorry.
But yeah,
I think very lame write-out of that storyline that you just brought up too. Like, the way
it really was
super lazy, the way that they did it. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just a lot. Again, there were the core element of Flashpoint is this movie, yes, but I think it did take too many liberties at the end of the day. And Marvel, I get in arguments with Marvel fans about that, especially in regards to Civil War. But that is a completely different situation, because literally at the time they didn't have the rights to make it any closer to what the comics were. They literally couldn't do it. Like, there was no legal way for them to make a somewhat accurate Civil War adaptation. It just couldn't happen because they didn't have mutants, they didn't have Fantastic Four, whatever. But this movie didn't have those restrictions. They own all of the characters that are in that adaptation.
That's true.
And I feel like had they stuck to it more, they may have had some better legs from some sweatier fans, and maybe that would have campaigned them to have better success instead of absolutely unequivocally bombing at the box office, bringing in $55 million domestically on a well above $280 million budget.
And it's looking like it's about to make less than Black Adam, which I didn't think was possible. But
right.
Yeah, on my take, I obviously don't. I'm not versed as much as the comic book lore as my friend Jalen is. Um, I am giving it a 5 out of 10 based off of the acting performances alone. Um, I do have issues with the CGI. I do have issues with the storyline that they kind of took with, but like Jalen said, whatever your thoughts are regarding Ezra Miller, the boy can act, or they can act, right? I think that they did a phenomenal job, and I felt the emotional bits when it came to him and his mother and things along those lines. I think those were performed beautifully, but I do agree that there was a lot of big issues that could have been fixed at the same time because of the situation of what DC is now with Warner Brothers. It was not necessarily a financial ideal thing to do once the movie was shot years ago. For those who don't know, the movie was literally finished and in the can probably 4 years ago, 3 years ago, and they had to hold on to it due to reasons, right? But I
Reasons.
do think that the acting performances overall were very phenomenal. Um, the CGI, we'll get into that, was a little shaky, and I understand that they made some comments regarding why the CGI was the way it was. Whatever, cool. But I do think that this movie was pretty much empty calories. You know, um, they have to restart everything now, but everything we got in this movie literally has no effect on what the moving future is. So overall, would I see this movie again? Yes, but I'm gonna wait till it's available to stream or something I can watch online, right?
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
the big first question I want to kind of throw over to you guys, and I know Keone and I kind of discussed it first. Um, the ending. Okay, we're diving. This is spoiler. If you haven't seen that movie, you probably shouldn't listen to this point. But at the same time, the movie was not what we wanted it to be, so you can listen if you haven't seen it anyway. Um, my interpretation was the fact that they brought George Clooney in at the end of the movie was them saying that the Flash is no longer going to be a part of the DCU, which is the new DC kind of regimen that's going on over at Warner Brothers. And I think that them showing George Clooney at the last scene, the Flash there is their way of saying Ezra Miller would not be our Flash anymore. And this is, for lack of a better term, this is an Elseworlds that will not be revisited. And we're going to move forward. Who knows if the Flash will come in chapter one, part two of James Gunn's overall scheme plan. But it will not be revolving around this character. And I wanted to get your interpretations of it because I know Keone said that he felt like it was a little different. And I'll start with you, Keone. But
Complete
just
opposite. Yeah.
complete.
I
No,
was like,
I'll let you go first, and then we'll kind of roll around to Jalen.
like
Yeah.
I told you off pod, my interpretation honestly was kind of a big old middle finger from James Gunn. Because I understand the, you know, maybe fan service, even though I'm pretty sure everybody thinks that George Clooney is like the absolute worst Batman ever
His
graced the
movies were the
screen.
worst Batman movies, but I think people
Yeah.
generally still liked him as Batman.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
It's
was
like
the consensus, I think.
that's the
I agree.
consensus. But so like for me personally, I saw it as more, this is kind of James Gunn's shtick. Like he's a very like kind of like like a weird comedy, like I forgot how I worded it in the message group that we said, but it's kind of like this like it's his version of comedy where it's like he probably thought it would be like super hilarious to like randomly pop up with George Clooney at the end because he likes to do those types of things where he throws those like instances in his movies, and I saw it more as that as opposed to like it being like a reset of anything. Especially considering like obviously we're it's all rumor, it's all hearsay. I haven't seen anything official regarding like what the ending was supposed to be. But if the ending was supposed to be what I would imagine it was supposed to be, about what how many years back that they actually recorded this, um, to then switch it to that, and that be kind of like a last second like just let's just put this one last little funny thing at the end. Like, to me it felt kind of unnecessary in a sense. Like, I would have almost have rather have had that moment play out in the other scene prior to that, during the time hopping and all that, where they were showing all the other worlds, like something along that kind of or just in general, like in a different manner in the way that they did it. Because I don't know. It just hit extra hard negatively because of the way the movie played out in from beginning to end. So I think for me it was just another layer of like, what are we doing here? Like, why was this cameo something that you thought would be like a really great thing to put in there at the end? Like, I don't know. That's how I read it, and I think kind of just like reading through like you know different versions of what people thought or have speculated of what was supposed to happen. Like, to me, there were other ways to conclude this particular group of people who worked very hard for many years in order to like build a universe that they believed in and obviously wanted to be a part of, but are now no longer going to be a part of. And this wasn't it. So it just, for me,
No.
it hit just that extra last punch right at the very end.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Jalen, what were your thoughts kind of in the final scene, as well as kind of your perspective on what it means for the future, I guess you could say?
Trash, distasteful, unwelcomed. Every way you could describe it not needing to be there. I can see the interpretation of, hey, maybe this is how James Gunn keeps Ezra Miller as the Flash in his universe. But as far as I'm concerned, this movie's dead.
Yep.
I think Ezra Miller's career is dead.
Yep.
I don't see this in any other fashion other than that was just a fan reference that didn't hit as well as I think they thought it would. And other than that, I was more of like, oh, okay, there's the last little bit of fan service. Finally, this movie's over, and I can go home. That was kind of where I was at with the theater at the point of that, because
Not to
I walked
mention
out and
that post credits, dude. Like, what was the point
and
of
then
that?
that made even less sense because
Right.
like what you're trying to, are you trying to get us excited for Aquaman 2, another movie that doesn't matter because you have no management of your movie franchises, which that movie's going to bomb as well because everybody at this point knows that Jason Momoa is not going to be Aquaman anymore. So why does it even matter? Another reason why James Gunn's a freaking moron. You know what I mean? Like, again, all these things that they hired this guy to like fix all of these air quote problems, and he's literally gonna nuke any chance of his universe even starting because they had 2 movies in the can, to which all he had to do was get on board, support, oversee like Kevin Feige does, and give it direction. That's all this universe needed, was solid direction after the departure of the last guy that had solid direction, which was Zack Snyder. And that's the pill that nobody wants to swallow. Like I know I sound like a crack, Snyder head fiend, and we know those fans are rabid animals, but they're like, look at the numbers. When he left is when everything hit the fan. Like, Aquaman is in that universe, and that was slightly after he left, but it was still carrying the momentum. Wonder Woman was still in there, and it did
so
really well. As soon as he left, we got Suicide Squad, did not do well. We got Birds of Prey, did not do well. We got I think by that point I think that was when the sequel for Wonder Woman came out, also did not do well compared to what it was supposed to do. And then of course we got the bomb that was the Joss Whedon Justice League, and that instance is never recovered, ever, not once. The Elseworlds properties, thank God they exist, because had the Joker not made $1 billion, had the Batman not made $800-something million,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think DC would have any movies out right now. I do not.
Yep.
Solely, I really don't. But yeah.
I agree. I do think it is a very sticky situation that James Gunn has kind of put himself in. I was trying to be very supportive of, like, we're going through a new regime, but you guys already heard my piece on when he laid out what the blueprint was for the first DCU movies that would be coming out. I didn't like it. It just doesn't seem to make sense why you would start off with these properties. But kind of moving forward, just so that we can, I guess, get some diversity, what were some things that you liked from The Flash? I'll start with you, Keone.
Yeah, I was gonna say she was my favorite part.
Sasha
Come on,
Calle
Throw me a
crushed
bow.
it.
Throw me a bone
Crushed
here.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, she was 100% the best part of the entire movie. She's a whole point for me of the 3.5 that I gave the movie.
She was the 2.5 for me.
Yeah, another point has to go to Michael Keaton. I mean, that was literally his performance in it. Like, I think so many people afterward were just firing up the whole debate of like who's the greatest of all time
Batman,
as far as
yeah.
the Batman are concerned. Yeah, so that like I went on to Twitter and that like literally was like everywhere. And I just had to look up like,
Let's get
yeah,
nuts.
oh man, he hit every
said
note in
things.
that movie though. Yeah, he was definitely a big highlight of the film. She was like, I told Bianca this like when we were watching it. I was like, I don't think I've seen anybody handle the ferocity and the sort of like brokenness turned into angerness thing that I've seen from her in like the smallest scenes that she had. In any actress like who's done like one of these superhero movies. Like, I think she does it so fluidly, and the way her character played out was like so natural. I just, man, she needs to be in what the hell else comes after this, because like every emotional range that she went through in the film, I just thought like she killed it. And I was like, to see somebody, yeah, oh man, when she hit that line, like I said, for me to feel like
hurt. Her baby cousin, man, you felt
it
that hurt, man.
Honestly, I thought it would have been crazy, and it would have been kind of shitty because I know you guys would have had issue with it. Would have been crazy if like they brought Henry Cavill in as like Zod somehow turned him to his side and brought him out as like the Juggernaut.
Jay would have probably ripped.
I would have been happy because it would have been Henry Cavill
Okay.
playing a Kryptonian again. That would have been fantastic. That would have been smart, actually, to have Henry Cavill be in the movie in some capacity, wearing the black suit, but for the Kryptonian side and being the fear of the nightmare that we saw in the Justice League film and fight Kara. That would have been interesting, I think. That would have been a nice thread.
I think another random positive note that I wrote, because there really wasn't that many to write up, was like that funny, like the roommate scene.
That's pretty good.
Although there was a lot of
Marty McFly.
The Marty McFly, but not just the Marty McFly, but like the fact that like they were like going through all the different movies and they're like naming all of like
But
these.
no,
like,
Kevin Bacon is Top Gun.
yeah, and I was just like, bro, could you imagine? But at the same time, I was like, in my head, I was like, those are like kind of perfect castings.
Those are kind of
It's like, those
legit,
actually
bro.
aren't that bad.
Like we went in another universe. I would like to see a Top Gun with Kevin Bacon, but so I think that scene really got me because from like this show specifically perspective, like I was just like, this is like if we just went back and we're like, let's just create the old movies but with a different cast. Like that's exactly what this whole conversation was. So I thought that was really funny. And then I think obviously like the other kind of funny moment that like actually got me to like chuckle was like the ghetto Flash suit that he made from the Batman suit.
Yeah.
Like when he first came up, I was just like, oh my god, like it looks
When he
so
turns his head.
Yeah, like the mess. Yeah. So yeah, there were like moments like that. But yeah, other than that, like the cameo stuff in the time travel, there was moments in there that were pretty interesting. I think Nicolas Cage obviously was one of those. Like, whoa, didn't expect that one. But yeah, I mean, outside of that,
like I know John Schnepp is like somewhere probably grinning ear to ear, and that's the only grace I will give that. Other than that, what the hell was it doing in there?
Because a lot of people didn't understand why Nicolas Cage was a Superman.
Like the
No
people
one
that
understood
understand it
that.
are us, and we are just the
Yeah.
sweats that enjoyed like Collider and then obviously a movie talk
Yep.
well before and got
Mhm.
to know John Schnepp and actually took the time to watch his
Rest
documentary.
in peace,
like,
John Snap.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Like those are the people that it was for. But like that, like if you're just the average person, you're like, why the fuck is Nicolas Cage playing Superman
Like for a second, you're like,
in
"Is
this
that
movie?"
Nicolas? Oh, that's Nicolas Cage.
And for those who don't know, obviously you may have seen like stills of randomly when Nicolas Cage was supposed to play Superman, but the background information of that was that they, for some reason, the studio said that they need Nicolas Cage as Superman to play a large spider. So that's the reason why there was a gigantic ass spider in that scene.
Go watch
Did
the
not know that.
documentary Superman
Yep.
Lives.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
available pretty much everywhere. So go watch that. And the when you get to the interview with the exec at the time, and like, yeah, you'll understand why it just didn't go anywhere. This man was on something, bro. Oh man.
Yeah, I'm just. But I'll swing it over to Jay.
But yeah,
I think,
Jalen,
I mean,
let me know what you
positively.
did enjoy from the movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed I think the costume looked fantastic. I think that was a very cool New 52 adaptation. Visually, I liked seeing how it fit on Ezra Miller. I will say, but you know, Sasha Kyle just did amazing. Like I said in my tweet, I fail to understand how the CW ran 6 seasons of Supergirl, and this is no diss to Melissa Benoist. I think she did a great job on that show for what she was given. But my biggest problem was that it fell victim to the woke writer's room where you just had Supergirl doing Superman things, and that's not how her character is. And somehow, over 6 seasons, they never captured the character of Kara Zor-El. Yet some mystical blessing, aligning of the planets, whatever you want to call it, Sasha Kyle gets to play Kara in this movie for less than 6 minutes of screen time and nails the character perfectly. Kara is a tortured soul. Kara deals with rage unlike any other, and both were perfectly displayed. She's stronger than Superman, but because she has no control, she will exhaust herself faster, leaving herself vulnerable in battle. And that's where Clark has to come into the story and teach her the ways of being able to operate on Earth as a superhero.
That's a
Is the
layer I
crux
didn't
of her
know.
character.
That just made her performance even greater.
Go look up
That- wow.
all her comics. Her story is trauma and how strong women are when they have to deal with it. That is what her character is. That is why she is a cool character. That's why she's such a strong, amazing female character in the scope of superherodom. But the CW show never got that. But this movie somehow did. And all of the other mess that this movie is, they got that absolutely correct. So therefore, that was easily the greatest thing that I enjoyed. I, of course, love seeing Michael Keaton. I think it was weird how they introduced the character. It was weird how he exited and whatever. But I do think it was amazing to see him back in the saddle, in the suit. And obviously with modern VFX and stunt doubles, we can see him do a little bit more than we were able to see him do in the Burton films, of course.
Like
in
him
regards to
versus
the combat.
the gigantic Kryptonian. Oh my god.
Oh, that was wild.
That
was some
was
cool
sick.
stuff, man. That was a great 1v1. And then them breaking in to get Kara in Russia was an awesome scene. We saw the classic bulletproof cape. We saw the high flying stuff. I'm glad they didn't try to do any I don't know, some kind of weird ass old man joke Marvel would ever something, because he's obviously an older Batman. Like when he does that big kind of dive down, if he did a superhero pose for him to be like, oh god damn it, yeah,
yeah,
something like that. They
I'm
kept
too old for
him
this shit.
Michael Keaton Batman, and that was so awesome to see.
So what I will interject and say is what I was looking for, because I am familiar with the Flashpoint storyline.
Right.
At no point in the movie did he admit that he is Bruce Wayne.
True.
And
so it is kind of open to interpretation.
Which is storyline wise very stupid that they didn't explore it more. But there was the one scene that I noticed or took note of is when he kind of goes into his Batcave through the Bruce Wayne version where he he has that sliding picture frame. he literally or specifically touches only Bruce's picture as a young kid. And I was like, okay, so is this their way of saying that he's Thomas Wayne? Because storyline wise, it doesn't make sense for Bruce Wayne to be quote unquote 20 years
100 years old.
older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
20 years older than what Ben Affleck was.
Yeah.
So I thought this is what their way of being like, oh, are they going to explore and him going to reveal to the Flash, like, oh, actually, I'm Thomas Wayne. I'm not actually Bruce. Because he seemed to only touch the picture of Bruce as he slid open the Batcave entrance door. I was like, huh, okay. And we're not going to explore that any further? All right.
Yeah.
like
I
the
think
only thing
one
they
line
did
of
for the H thing
confirmation
was
would
the
have sealed it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just one line, anything would
That's
have
all,
done.
all it could have been.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
have been mad if it wasn't Bruce. It was still Michael Keaton saying all the classic lines in the Batman outfit at all. I will say I liked that we did get to see kind of a different version of the Speed Force, but it's also a critique because it didn't
We'll
really
get
work
to that, yeah.
for me. Not the visual effects wise. I just think like the concept of it didn't work for me, and that might just be because I'm conditioned to how the Flash did it on the TV show with Grant Gustin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that might have worked for some other people.
I'd agree with that, yeah.
Again, I'm
Yeah.
putting the
That's
VFX
fair.
aside. I'm going for how the filmmakers and the artists that worked on it were trying to reinterpret what the Speed Force would look like. And I think it was an interesting one for sure. Like just to kind of visualize what that would be like, to see multiple realities and universes all at once while you're controlling yourself running, right? But again, I think the mechanics of it didn't, I don't want to say feel like, we're talking about a guy that can run at the speed of light, right? So it can't be like, well, I wanted it to be more realistic, but like it just felt
What
like
if a person run like that?
there was a more convenient avenue for it
Yeah.
to go. And I think I will say like the Flash TV show did it better. They just did. I don't know how else to say it.
I feel that a lot.
That was a positive note for me because I was like, because Jay brought it up. It was a comedy point. Was the little like when he lost the Speed Force and he was
He
like,
tried to run around the room.
yeah, in a circle.
Yeah.
That
was
really
pretty funny.
I
That
will
was good.
say, overall, I thought some of the jokes did hit very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like him, the new Flash understanding what phasing was, but not knowing how to phase correctly, dropping into his neighbor's room. I got a chuckle out of that. Him doing his little run around the circle, just kind of like how Keone said, that was pretty funny for me.
Yeah.
Overall, I would say the main, like I mentioned earlier, the main thing that I found as a pro for this movie was just the acting for what the storyline was. Ron Livingston playing Barry's dad. I don't know the actress's name who played his mom, but I felt like
Just
any
looked it up.
scene that they were kind of involved with, I felt the emotional hits. that they
Maribel
want.
Verdú is her name. We're gonna give her
I'm
some
not going to
credit
try to
because
repeat
she
that,
was.
but
That's
I
one of my
agree.
knocks
Fantastic.
against it, but we'll continue.
Okay, fair enough. I think that his portrayal, I guess, in those scenes where one, he understood trying to save his mom, and then at the end trying to let his mom die. I felt those scenes were very well kind of conducted. It was a little funky here and there, but really, those are only the main things I really enjoyed. I thought some of the jokes hit. I did enjoy the action, especially with Sasha Kaye, kind of being that Kryptonian Earth protector in those scenes. I did enjoy, and this could be a con for you guys. I did enjoy where they kind of made it a no-win situation, where they kind of had the young Barry trying to redo the Speed Force every single time, just to try to save whoever it was, but understanding that each kind of predicament they were in. Nope, Batman has to die, Supergirl has to die. Obviously, big scheme of things, it's all null, but I thought that they did that very well and kind of understanding where things went. But I did think that overall the story did kind of have a lot of holes that could have been fixed and should have been fixed, especially because this movie was in the can years prior. But that will lead us into the next part. Things that we did not like overtly did not enjoy with the movie. And I will start with you, Jalen. What were some things that kind of just grinded your gears hardcore?
All right. So here's the deal. I don't know did we know Ezra's ethnicity by chance? Like off the hand, is he just
Himself?
white? Yeah.
I would assume he might be of Jewish descent.
Why? Okay. Why is his mom Latina? Why?
I
Why
think
is
she
this
was
happening?
Italian.
Or whatever the hell. That's not. No, that didn't work for me. That
Okay.
that threw me off
Fair.
immediately upon entry. It just didn't need to be there. There's no
He's
reason.
Jewish, Dutch, and German.
Okay, so none of those three things, even to say like, oh well, the main
Not a
actor
good
was
genetic makeup to be a bad
right.
person.
So like, I think the casting of his dad was 5,000 out of 10. I love that actor.
Yep. Love
But
him.
the thing that we were supposed to care about, I was immediately taken out of the film because like I'm like, what is whoa oh, no, what, huh? This isn't. And I don't mean to sound like a stereotypical like comic book bookhead, but like it's unnecessary and it doesn't work. Like that could have just been a plain Jane white actress and it felt very forced to me.
Okay.
To which then
Fair enough.
the scenes that you liked, the emotional beats, I'm immediately taken out of the film because honest to God, I feel like everybody in this movie had a great performance except for Ezra Miller. I do not feel like maybe it was his line delivery, maybe it was his interpretation of the script. I think the comedy beats he crushed in a lot of the scenes that we talked about earlier with the dorm scene or the roommate scene. I thought that was hilarious. I think the physical comedy he did when he was like trying to like run around and like ran himself into the wall, like that part was all great. And I think some of the superhero stuff where he was trying to explain to the Newberry how to use his powers, like all that kind of stuff, he crushed all that. But the stuff I'm supposed to care about, like he lost me because there's this weird ass dialogue because we put this unnecessarily cultural spin on Barry Allen's family that didn't need to be there. Like it's a white character traditionally. Just do it white. It's fine. Like, you know what I mean? But I think it felt like a 2023 movie coming out that had to somehow check a demographic box. So they made the mom Italian. And it just completely threw me out of the film from the start. And it was hard to get back in until Michael
She wasn't
Keaton.
Italian because I was like, I remember her being like,
I assumed she was
I
Italian.
remember her being like dropping like a mijo in there, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
She was Italian because she was making pasta sauce, and it was like, I need to make this correctly, kind of thing.
I guess
I could be correct. I could be wrong, but that was my.
But either way, it just doesn't work. It should have just been a stock standard. I mean, good
Hispanic
for her
people
for
can't
landing the
make
role.
pasta.
Like, great for her for landing the role, but like, it should have been somebody else. I'm sorry. Like, if this wanted to work, it should have been somebody else because it didn't work. I felt like I think she did fine, but the whole like, don't forget the tomato, like that line, fucking no, done. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is terrible. Like, who told him to say it in this moment? Like when. Like, I wanted that entire scene to be silence, and I wanted to see Ezra just flex because he can do that. We've seen him do that in Perks of Being a Wallflower, Beast movies, etc. Right? Like, but like he says it, and immediately I vomit because it's so cringe. I was like, Jesus Christ, please kill me. Anyway, moving on from that beat, the villain reveal, air quote, because we could definitely see it, telegraphed the whole fucking movie, right?
Yeah.
Was awful. Why was it not the Reverse Flash? And because the movie doesn't matter anyway. So like you can just cast a Reverse Flash and James Gunn's not going to take it. Why was it not a Reverse Flash or like any other version? Like if we're going to do the alternate timeline, Barry, like that storyline is cool, but like just one Ezra. You know what I mean? Like there were 3 of them by the end of the movie. I wanted to punch a baby. I was so upset. That was also something that turned me off.
We don't condone punching babies.
No offense. I don't condone using babies as a joke, kind of, to set up your first act of a superhero film. That didn't work for me at all because I love my aunt and like they just recently had their baby and they've had, some things go down and that's, is a big deal. So like that kind of baby humor, it better be really fucking funny or it doesn't work for me. And the whole idea of the NICU falling out of a fucking skyline and then trying to save one of the babies by putting them in a microwave. What the fuck is wrong with you? Who thought this was a good idea?
Because
Who
that's going to
thought that
save a
was
baby,
the best
apparently.
first act you could do with a Flash film? Just do what everybody else fucking does. Have them save kids on a fucking bus. Like that's a, you know what I mean? We didn't need to do this. This was so extra and over the top and ridiculous that it didn't need to be there. So that another big dinger from me off the rip. The last one, again, the utter underutilization of other characters in the DCU because James Gunn was hired is very obvious. The 2 seconds we get of Wonder Woman and Batman are okay.
All nil. Yeah.
But it means nothing. Again, like they didn't get to the Atlantean and Amazonian War, which is a huge thread in the main comic continuity in the anime. That's
I would
like
almost rather have
a good
seen them do the
70% of the film.
What was that film where they showed like the bottom half of like Superman's legs or something? Like I would.
It was
almost
the
rather have had
Shazam
that.
post-credit scene. They just couldn't get Henry Cavill, so they just showed a guy and then did chest down.
I would rather have had that than what they did with them because of the fact that they literally didn't
had the
include any of that
awkward,
story in there.
Romantic tension between Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot. I was like, come on.
That's happened in the comics. I was always okay with that. I think those two actors would have pulled that off beautifully had there been more opportunity, but that's neither here nor there. A small nitpick. Why the fuck is Batman out during the daytime? What the fuck is this? You know what I'm saying? Like he's not. This isn't. No, it's daytime. What are we doing?
He's not the light knight. He's the dark.
He's
knight.
the Dark Knight because he goes out at nighttime. What the fuck is going? Like if something happens during the day, Bruce Wayne just looks at it. Like there's no putting on the cape and going to save the day. He's not Superman.
That didn't bother me until you
shadows.
said it, but now that bothers me.
Thank you. Now, like it really, like what they've done to Ben Affleck's Batman is just absolutely abysmal, and it's not forgivable. What they did in the everything outside of Zack Snyder is not forgivable. What they did to Ben Affleck's Batman. But anyway, the only other thing I will say, again, you can separate the art from the artist. I fully believe that this movie should have just been canned, recast, reshot, and it would have yielded better results. 100%, because it's one of those things where if the main plot is me looking at two versions of Ezra Miller, I don't know how this movie ever thought it was going to work given the circumstances that it was surrounding the film.
I mean, yeah, now we look back at it.
And they had the time because that stuff was almost a year and a half, 2 years ago.
But it's a lot of money. It is.
I mean, you spend more money to get a product out that somebody might actually, you could at least lose half instead of losing 90%. You know what I mean? Like, think about it that way. You might have doubled it, but you would have at least gotten half of it back versus you still doubled it and now you lost 80% of the money you put into the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How
Like,
much of the lack of profit was from the fact that people were literally just protesting this decision to let him be in the
will
movie?
never know,
Like,
actually.
probably
Like,
never know, but I imagine a good majority of it was
Yeah,
because of that.
yeah.
And then it did not have a good word of mouth and on top of it because it was a nightmare because they hired James Gunn and had to do a shit ton of reshoots to address the story issues. And it's just it's a travesty to the character of the Flash, and I hope maybe one day we get a better interpretation, properly done. Yeah, and yeah, it's a nightmare. The ending didn't work for me. Yeah, it's just it was a hodgepodge, and the VFX. Jesus Christ! When your lead director,
Yeah.
I got it right here. Don't worry. When your lead director tries to
Andy
say
Muschietti.
this. We are in the perspective of the Flash. Everything is distorted in terms of lights and textures. We enter his water world, which is basically being in Barry's POV. It was part of the design, so if it looks a little weird to you, that was intended. No, it wasn't.
no.
No, it wasn't.
It
wasn't weird.
It
looked
looks
awful.
like the Scorpion King from The Mummy Returns.
Yeah.
That's
exactly
what I
it looks like.
Don't tell me it was intentional. Say what the fuck happened. You ran out of time in
credit
VFX.
to, Christopher Reeve as well as George Reeves and all the other characters that
Oh
were
my
kind of
God.
shown.
Finish that, because then I gotta drop some bombs about that shit. Hold on.
Right? We're CGI wise, it just did not hit the way it was supposed to. You know, it obviously looked fake for something that was released in 2023. It looked like it could have been done in iMovie or GarageBand or something along those lines. But Jalen, yeah, you have some thoughts regarding those presentations?
Christopher
That was the
Reeves
part I was waiting
and
for.
Chris Reeve cameos were both distasteful and dishonorable to both of those men.
Okay.
Both of those actors absolutely detested playing the role of Superman. So the fact that you thought that putting them in there as a cool fan service, us fans know that that is disgusting on every possible level because of how it was presented as well. It would have been one thing had you shown some clips of the actual films they were in, right? Like in a kind of slideshow fashion. You disgustingly brought them back to life with that level of CGI and then tried to claim it as something cool to look at because he's looking into the multiverse. Bro, that ain't it. And like, I think that lost a lot of people, at least from the sweat part of things, because doing any research, Chris Reeve, on at least in specifics, the first Superman, had literal mental health issues after portraying Superman in those early 60s films. Like, the man's career was destroyed because he played the Man of Steel. And then obviously Christopher Reeve, once he departed the role of Superman, was very much picky and choosy about like reappearing or doing any kind of references to Superman, because when you play such an iconic character, that's kind of all people see you as, etc. So he he hated the role that he played, which is another kudos as to why Tom Welling's one of the top Supermen, because he's one of the few people that ever received that blessing from Christopher Reeves himself.
And he was in Smallville.
And he was in the show. So if you want to talk about who's the best Superman, sorry, Henry. You're
and me and Jalen agree. Who was the best Lex Luthor?
Yeah, it's Lex. It's
Michael
Michael Rosenbaum. Kind of.
Read him and weep.
There's another actor that I put above that, but
Oh,
might be in jail.
No, yeah. For reasons we.
To be fair, when I made the list, was not a criminal. Now he is.
I mean, he was a criminal, but he was not a known
He
criminal.
wasn't exposed as a criminal at the time I made the list, and I will stick by the list. Can't cancel me.
For those reasons.
For those reasons. Your Honor, I'm innocent.
But he is not. Anyway,
He is not.
Obviously, you can tell that by our discussions, the movie itself did not hit the way it was supposed to, despite the year-long postponement that it took. But gentlemen, that will do it for us here for the Flash movie review.
What? I didn't get to say any negatives.
Oh, I thought you did. Oh, I
No.
apologize.
Jay went
My
first.
rant was
I
You
long.
was
know
like,
what? I didn't
My rant
say
was
that.
long.
Keone, what were your negatives?
I was like, bro,
Jalen took a long
all I
portion
had-
of it.
I'm sorry.
I should have known because Jalen took
You
that
got so
long.
many clips for Instagram, bro.
I was
Go
like, that's
ahead.
all I had was negative.
Go ahead, Keone.
I said one of like the I'm just gonna try to keep it as short as possible. The weird CGI usage, because there was a lot of it, like with Batflick's suit. You could see it like even within the face. I thought that was really weird, like a
The
weird
bulldog cowl that he had.
Yeah,
For some
it was
reason.
like a weird touch that I was just like, why were we doing this? I don't know. Like those moments, there was a few moments with like even like his suit and stuff that were a little like off-putting. So I thought that was really weird. And I think that scene that you were talking about, the opening part of the movie where they had the babies, like I don't care that the ideal was to try to do like I feel like that part alone should have had a different look than what you would have seen in when he was actually going through time, because obviously he's going a lot faster when he's going through time. So it would have made more sense for that part for him to be going like incredibly fast and to see like maybe a little bit like weirder, wonkier looking people. But when he was running to save the babies, like for me, it was like one of those things like, why did we, one, decide babies? Because I agree with you wholeheartedly. That was such a stupid choice. And two, why was the idea to like make them look like that? Because it looked almost like Shrek 1. Like that's like the best way I can put like the babies looking like it looked so bad that like obviously that in that time great. Like but now 2023, you know what we're talking about? Like it looked super super horrible and it like set like a really bad tone for the rest of the movie already because I was like if this is what they're doing with something that I feel like should have been more simplistic, I can only imagine what the hell it's going to look like when we get to like the bigger action scenes when things are supposed to be like more chaotic and things are flying all over the damn place. And sure enough, it did not disappoint when it got there. I also agree with Jay. I do think that there was a lot of moments that didn't hit quite as much with Ezra's character because I think like I don't agree necessarily with the mom take because I do think it's not really her fault. Obviously, like I
No,
think
it's not.
I
It's not
yeah,
her fault
yeah,
at
yeah.
all. But it
Yeah,
just
yeah,
it's one
yeah.
of those things where like it didn't need to be
Yeah,
a thing.
yeah, which I understand. Like I fully agree with that point. Like it definitely didn't need to be. But I do think that she did a wonderful job and they obviously like they had like really solid chemistry. I felt like when they
Mhm.
got to that scene at the end there. The only thing I will say, and because of like I you know, I agree with Nolan. I do think he's a talented actor. He definitely has some movies out there that show his talent. Um, a lot of the comedy stuff like really rubbed me the wrong way, specifically with his other half, with the younger Barry that was shown because
Like
I
his
felt
laugh.
like oh things like that. I think there was a lot of like it's like that weird thing where like people try to act younger than they are, so like it plays off really weird. And I think that's exactly what I felt from it because it gave me like that cringy feeling every time his character was on the screen. Because it just felt so weird. Like I was like, I don't know who he's tuning to be right now because it did feel very much like he was trying to be like Peter Parker, like Tom Holland, like young innocent vibes where it just felt really forced for him to try to act that way. And honestly, like that really took me out of any interaction that they had between the two of them because even on his part, there was just seemed like there was so much overacting. Like it hit horribly. Like any scene that they were in together, like I just couldn't get on board with what was happening on screen because like he's literally acting with himself and he has horrible chemistry with himself. Like that, like to me, like
Would
it's
you
such
have chemistry with yourself though?
yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like if you're gonna do it, like make it like freaking phenomenal so people don't forget it. Like I think Jay had a great point to that. It's like because we were forced, and not only like with obviously everything going on outside of the movie, but because we were forced to have to watch him do these interactions for the entire movie, like it just made it stand out that much more that he was not doing a great job with it. So yeah, that was another thing that just really really bothered me because obviously there was a lot of things, but yeah, and then we get to the ending. um I didn't really like the kind of rushed feeling of everything like as we got near the end, like probably till like the third act of the movie. Like it felt like everything just kind of went from 0 to 100 and they tried to squeeze in so much into this movie. It just felt like a complete letdown.
I
And
feel
from
that.
the commercials, yeah, for the commercials it felt like it was going to be so good because I feel like even when it got to like the point where you know they go and save Sasha, like, or excuse me, Supergirl's character, like it felt like it may make a turning point and then it just completely fell flat after that. And like I think it just all boils down to this dude just not acting the way that I know that he could act, but it doesn't really matter because obviously I'm already thinking about all the crap that he's doing outside of here, so it kind of takes away from it anyway.
What? What type of
Yeah.
crap, County?
And I was like Andy Muschietti, like I don't know, bro. Like at this point, it's like if he's even thinking about trying to do another Flash, and I understand from
Well,
his perspective where he
He
said like,
is. From my understanding, he is being slated to be the director of Batman: Brave and the Bold.
we probably don't have time for that take because I can already see Jalen's face boiling as it is.
Nah,
But yeah, I mean,
I think he did fine. Like I
think
said,
what he
I
was
commend
given.
him
yeah.
Yeah,
for even making a movie that somewhat you could follow. To be honest, like the dude was in a no-win scenario.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we can't forget that he made the It films. Like those exist, and he's a phenomenal director.
Yeah, the It films, first one was phenomenal. Second one, but it still was pretty.
Yeah.
It was serviceable, right? It was serviceable.
Very good film.
That first one definitely hit a little more. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think Brave and the Bold would be better material for him as a director than The Flash would have been. I think this movie given to a James Wan or a
okay.
Ooh.
you know, even a Guillermo del Toro would have been more ideal.
Ooh, okay.
Now
I was gonna say,
stop it.
Also, thoughts on possibly Jensen Ackles playing the older Batman in Brave and the Bold?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Do it.
All right. Lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Keone,
this
any
movie
other
would have been
thoughts on
saved
your
had
negative-
they casted a great Reverse Flash to be in the movie.
Yeah.
I was
agree with
really
that, yeah.
assuming a Reverse Flash was going to
Literally
show up there.
it.
But, you know,
I really
we're
thought it was
probably-
going to be super lame if they just revealed himself as the Reverse Flash.
As the Dark
Please
Flash,
don't
I
go
guess
that
you
way.
could-
Like,
No, Future Flash would have been cool. Like he goes back in time
Yeah.
to set all the, or like, you know, whatever, to set all this crazy shit in motion. Like that would have been cool. It's a different version of Flashpoint, and you keep, you know, but at the end of the day, like we don't get an answer. Like, so who stabbed her? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're just
Never
not going to
got
find
to
out
that
that
point.
information.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Was
why
this a
didn't you just
burglary
go
in the middle
back
of the
and
day?
stop the murderer of your mother, right? I mean,
Right.
you know,
Like what? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's, again, they had the guts and the pieces of it, but the core of what Flashpoint was this. It was the
you know where you
narrative
need
of
to
like
be. You know where you are. How you gonna
right.
get there?
Yeah.
But like
I was
the
just-
Reverse Flash is the catalyst to why the Flash
Yeah.
exists. So he literally
Yep.
cannot stop the Reverse
Yeah.
Flash, and that's
Yeah.
the Joker Batman thing. It's a great, fantastic
You complete
thread,
me.
and it just opportunity
Yeah,
missed.
I was only going to say, like, with the Andy Muschietti thing, like, because obviously he's already been on board saying that he thinks he can't see anybody else playing his Flash, whatever.
I can.
It's pretty obvious why he can't see anybody else playing his version of the Flash the way that the Flash was kind of...
cut.
like the way that he was like written and directed in
I
this
think that
film.
was all
I
just
feel like
marketing ploy, but continue.
but like obviously it's like if that is his take and he does feel that way, like to his core, like obviously it makes sense because you can't get any crappier than the Flash was in this film. So you're right on with that one. He is the perfect casting for any crappy Flash movies you want to make in the future. Like
Right.
that's it for me.
Needless to say, we have some underwhelming thoughts regarding the Flash. It is looking like it's going to be slated to make less than Black Adam, which was, I believe, around 390 million worldwide. I don't have the exact numbers right now, so I'm not going to speculate on that. But it does look like it's.
I don't even think it's close, is it?
I mean, the first weekend was
Not even
144, and the second weekend was
Yeah.
maybe like
70 or maybe something?
who knows?
It was
but
a
it doesn't look
70% drop
promising.
From the opening week.
What I will say is, it's not looking great. It's very
Always
grim
money.
looking. And overall, with this new DCU, they need to understand that, and this is not necessarily just in support of James Gunn. The Warner Brothers production studio and all of that above needs to understand that they are going to take a loss with the first one or two movies with this new DCU. Just because of the taste that's been left in everyone viewership-wise' mouth, it's not going to be pretty. It's not. You can make a great movie. It might be critically acclaimed, but audience viewership-wise, it may take a little bit of a hit. But if you guys want to succeed, you guys need to make sure you're making some damn good movies, because that's the
If
only
it
way you're
even
gonna...
happens.
Yeah.
This is what I
have
told you.
I have no qualms with that, but it's gonna be a bit of a uphill journey, and it's
So
up to
good job
them.
or good luck making movies with your $0.
but we'll see. Obviously, we know Jalen will not be in theaters to see the new Superman movie, which will be the first. I think the first DCU movie.
Technically, Blue Beetle has been
they said it's the
tagged
first
because
DCU
it's
character
looped in somehow, but not really James Gunn. So I'm still gonna
prayers
go
up to Blue Beetle.
get that one.
I
Yeesh.
hypothesize that Blue Beetle is going to be the first character of DCU because they need the public opinion to feel like that this is going to.
They don't get the teeny bop crowd, so it might make more money.
Yeah, it might.
Everybody who watched Cobra Kai, you know.
Yeah, it has some upside. We'll see how it goes from there. But gentlemen, obviously this has been a more of a somber segment for us. But let them know where they can find you, starting with you, Sir Jalen.
You can find me on Twitter, campaigning for Henry Cavill's return, or Sasha Kaye. How do you say her last name? Kaye is solo property.
It's street in Spanish.
Right. I would rather them take Superman Legacy and rework it into her solo film. If James Gunn did that, I might give him some money. Swear to Christ.
Book it. Right
anyway.
Hey, James Gunn, listen up.
I'm just saying. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Jalen Holston, tweeting about all things Kryptonian, Marvel, and the like. Probably some anime here and there. You can find me on Instagram at @artbyjalen. You can find me on Twitch at mokathanos_LGG.
And Keone.
You can find me on all the socials, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. Keone is KAYOHKNEE.
And you guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch as well at Nolan KYT, NOLAN KYT. Once again, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Obviously, this was a little bit more of a bashing of a segment. It wasn't necessarily our favorite movie of the year.
This is our lowest rated movie on the pod.
Probably, yeah. Overall, this is definitely our lowest rated movie of the pod. But once again, thank you guys for making us a part of your day. We enjoyed having you be a part of ours. From all of us here at Boy and Soy. Good vibes and love, everybody.
Bang it a bang.
Doses.